did ask him, did he have a grudge with the airline? He said, no, I don't have a grudge with the airline, but I do have a grudge.
But that was the Vietnam conflict. Coming back from Vietnam, what was your reception back in America when you got here? What kind of reception as a Vietnam vet did you get?
Very poor.
And there's your problem. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. You know, sometimes you capture something on camera that you just didn't expect, and that interview was one of them. I'm going to put a little bit more of that interview at the very end of this video. So tonight's Sunday night video will be a little bit of a special one. We've only had 3 accidents since last Sunday night, and I got quite a few topics to cover, but tonight is Sunday night. Glad to have you with us in the chat room, and let's get started. Ready, go. Dan Grider, probable cause. It's Sunday night, October 1. It's the end of the first 3 quarters of 2023. Can you believe it? 2023 is 3 quarters over. Today is October 1, a fresh, clean slate for October. We finished up September. Here's the accident data for September. All the way through last night, we lost a Cessna 150 with 1 person on board, a fatal up in New Hampshire last night. We'll get into all of that as we get going here. But really only 3 fatal accidents since last Sunday night, and that's good. I think we're on a trend. We're going to talk about that trend and the direction we're going and the purpose of the DTSB and all that kind of stuff going forward. You know that tune, I'll Fly Away? Sometimes the magic occurs at some of these fly-ins. We take our guitars and our banjos and we go to these places, we stay up late and we play music. I'm going to include a section of video at the very end of this video if you want to hear it, so that this video can be had with no advertising or no external interruptions to it. I'll Fly Away turned out to be a group sing-along at Triple Tree at the very end of the night, and it turned out to be kind of fun. I'll put that video at the very end if you like that kind of thing. Check out the fiddle solo by Toby Rice. Check out the little tiny guitar solo by fledgling guitar player Dylan Grider, and check out the piano solo in there from my friend Rob, too, Nashville player from Nashville, Tennessee. Rob and Crystal, great friends. And we ended up with these things don't get choreographed, they just happen, and it happens almost every single time. Something occurs just like that. So check it out at the very end of this. I'll put the conclusion of I'll Fly Away, the video footage sent to me by Dave and Patty from North Carolina, great friends that I happened to meet for the first time, and they sent me that footage. Let's get into it. You know, the Vietnam thing is relevant to me, especially, I don't know if any of you have followed my D.B. Cooper quest here. I got those 2 videos, D.B. Cooper Part 1 and Part 2. D.B. Cooper Part 1 is Deep Family Secrets. D.B. Cooper Part 2, Deep FBI Secrets. If you're interested at all in that, there's been a lot of hubbub recently about D.B. Cooper in the news, things like that. I've got D.B. Cooper Part 1 and Part 2. D.B. Cooper was truly Richard Floyd McCoy, a North Carolina resident and from Raleigh, North Carolina. And I want you to know that he was a Vietnam vet. He skyjacked 2 aircraft. And yes, we know that's illegal and that's not good. But I also think that sometimes vets like this get backed into a corner. They get backed into either suicide or alcohol or drugs, or in his case, him and his wife, as Bonnie and Clyde, they turned towards hijacking because they had a grudge. And he even told the stewardess that night, she asked him, let's listen to this.
I did ask him, did he have a grudge with the airline? He said, no, I don't have a grudge with the airline, but I do have a grudge.
So, more on DB Cooper coming up. I'm sure it's going to be in the news. It's the world's only unsolved hijacking. Did he have a reason for hijacking both of those airplanes? Maybe, maybe not. You can give me your opinion. I think our Vietnam veterans, specifically Richard Floyd McCoy, was treated very poorly when he got back from 2 Vietnam tours, could not support his family, and our U.S. government wouldn't give him a job, and he was at his wits' end on what to do. Let's get into the rest of this schedule-wise. Next Saturday, I think it's the 6th or 7th of October. Next Saturday, we'll take the DC-3 up to Gwinnett County, KLZU for EAA 690. Here's the graphic for it. We'll be up there for the pancake breakfast. We're going to fly the DC-3 up. Dylan and I and Drew will be up there for Saturday just to eat a pancake. Got quite a few people. The DC-3 is full. I've given away seats on this thing. You can't buy a ride, but I've got people that are going on this thing. Just going to ride the airplane up and back, and that'll be Saturday, and glad to have you with us on that. Real quick, I'm going to revisit Alaska 1288. This occurred August 20. The NTSB came out and said that the G landing on this thing was 1.7 on the accelerometers, which is within the tolerances. They don't consider it to be a hard landing. And yet, I want to show you the graphic here. NTSB is yet to produce a recommendation. My question is, if it's not a hard landing, and there's already an AD on this trunnion pin that goes in this thing, how come there's no further update? There's no new AD and there's no new recommendation. If it was a normal landing and within G's and everything's normal and this thing simply failed, don't we have a whole bunch of other 737s out there flying around that also need to be fixed, looked at, and inspected? How come no recommendation from the NTSB? Jennifer, you can't have it both ways. You can't say it was a nice, soft, buttery landing and no problem, and yet no recommendation. If it's a mechanical failure and a defective pin, materials, workmanship, something in that pin that is not right, then we need to put out a recommendation to get all the pins inspected. You got people flying around. You got the general public out there flying around on airplanes with defective pins, if that's true. My personal opinion was, yes, it was a hard landing. This guy definitely went way below glide slope. It's an increased threshold crossing height. He crossed the threshold very low. He slammed it in. 1.7 is just the accelerometer. I think his feet per minute when he touched down, I think he drove that thing into the runway, and it drove that thing. That gearbox is designed to fail at the weak point up and through the top of the wing so that it did not interrupt the integrity of the wing box and the fuel up in that wing. They're not producing the CVR. The docket is not showing a CVR or the flight data recording. We're not getting to see any of that, only the statement by the NTSB that they don't consider it to be a hard landing. I cry foul. We'll see. I hope that at some point the NTSB comes out of their closet and lets us see the actual data, all the data from the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder. That's going to be very interesting. You know, the T6 crash out at Reno at the end of the Reno air races, it was not an air show, it was the air races out there. The very end, one of the last races out there, the T6 class, and there is no cool down period lap up here. These guys did not pull up and go up to 3,000 feet and fly around for a few minutes to cool down. They finished the race. They entered downwind base. Typically, as is customary, number 1 lands 1 and number 2 lands number 2. So it was the number 2 guy that hit the number 1 guy. Each one of them made position reports on their radios. However, neither aircraft talked to the other aircraft. I think that's our problem in general aviation. I think there's too many people making position reports of the traffic pattern, but failing to work it out and negotiate who's going first. Do you see me? Do I see you? It's like flying formation. There's a lot of communication. Who's got the lead? Who's in charge here? Who is flying off of who? That never got worked out at Reno. You would think with all their budget, air bosses, people, personnel, radios, binoculars, you would think that somebody out there would have provided at least the advisory service to let them know or to assign, hey, you're landing 1, you're landing 2, something like that. Never happened. So therefore, I made a video. I've started this new AQP series. It's up and on the air. This AQP series number 1 has to do with traffic patterns. So I took Dylan's little Cherokee and I went out and I flew a traffic pattern. You can see that video. I went in there and tried to talk to you about the traffic pattern and how I fly the traffic pattern. The communication in it is a little bit over the top, too much. I'm trying to emphasize the fact that it's possible to cause the other person to talk in the traffic pattern. I'm not trying to say you should enter conversation like I did and say, hey, how's it going out there? I was just trying to prove that if I did ask a question, even a random question, I could invoke a response. That's what I want you to do in the traffic pattern. Be aware, get your head on a swivel, put your iPad down. In the traffic pattern, you don't need that iPad. Put that thing in the seat and pay attention to what you're doing out there. This video right here is going to stay up and on the air. This is AQP number 1. It has to do with our best management practices, our traffic pattern, and it's also got a loss of thrust on takeoff clip in there to show you what happens when I lost an engine. I lost thrust. I didn't lose an engine. I lost thrust on takeoff. When you watch the video, you'll see exactly why I lost thrust. I got a lot of good response, a lot of good feedback off of that concerning checklists, ideas, future ideas. If you'd like to see more of those videos, let me know. I'm already scheming for the next version of that. Number 2 and number 3 will show up. Here's a crash. I'm just showing you the clip real quick. This happened down in Mexico. This is a gender reveal. This airplane came flying in. The left wing failed. Let's take a look at this clip. No information to learn here. No lessons learned off of this that I know of, but I've had 1,000 people email me and text me about this particular clip. Here it is.
Well, a gender reveal celebration in Mexico turning deadly after the pilot hired to fill the air with pink smoke ended up crashing in front of the guests. In this viral video, you can see a couple standing in front of a sign that reads, "Oh baby," surrounded by balloons. Moments later, an aircraft flies over the couple and releases the smoke. But as it flies off, you can see it twist as the left wing breaks apart and the plane spirals toward the ground. Red Cross officials say the pilot was taken to an area hospital where he was pronounced dead.
I'm going to talk real quick about the DTSB Superfund. Here's the link for it right here. And I want you to know that the DTSB Superfund, we are definitely, I've already got board members. We're going to have 12 board members on this DTSB fund. The funding is going to be held in a separate state under a separate bank account, and we've now got DTSB board members. Our articles of incorporation are in draft form and about to be submitted. It's going to take several more months to officially become a 501c3, but our DTSB function and the whole purpose of this thing, board members, myself, anybody, number 1, there's nobody on payroll. There's nobody getting a salary of any kind, including me. We can reimburse expenses, reasonable expenses approved by the board if we need to. When you donate towards the DTSB, eventually, not yet, eventually your donation could be 501c3 protected as a charitable contribution. When all that paperwork gets done and we're official, I'll let you know. For the time being, we asked for $10,000. That fund went right through $12,000 almost immediately, showing me that there's a lot of interest in this thing. The whole purpose of this thing is to make all of our transactions public. Therefore, every penny that goes in and every penny that comes out is going to be public. We're going to show you what we're doing with that money. We intend to use that with the board for consulting, to helping pilots, building videos, doing travel, showing things so we can hopefully attempt to reduce the general aviation fatal accident rate. Now, my question is, are we reducing the general aviation fatal accident rate? I think we are. Here's a graphic built by my friend Landon Cohen. First of all, I'll show you the graphic that I produced in raw data and sent to him. Here it is. This has to do with the data for the last 20 years. Right here. My point is that over the last 20 years, look at the number of general aviation fatals per month has been on the way down, and look at the number of NTSB recommendations. Here they are in the red box all the way to the right. So total, look at this, total since the year 2000, more than 31,000 general aviation. This is just general aviation in the U.S. Just general aviation, more than 31,000 accidents has been investigated by the NTSB. How many recommendations? 60. We're not producing any recommendations on this. Here's the data. I'm going to show this to you. Here's DTSB Presents, prepared by Landon Cohen, DTSB analyst. Here's the data for you. Look at this. The year 2000, the number of fatals. Here's the number of fatals per month, and we're on the way down. The interesting thing here, look at this column over here, the number of fatals per month that were VFR. Typically, if you do an average here, about 80% of them are VFR. So that tells me that the number of fatals that we're doing per month mostly are airmanship, procedural, day VFR, unrelated to weather. Here's the last graphic here. I want to show you this general aviation, average general aviation fatals per month by year. See the green dot here? We are decreasing. We're not down to 14 yet. That 2023 at 14, that's a wish on my part. If we keep going at the rate that we're going here with very low fatals per month, typically at the end of the year, our fatals do slow down a little bit as flying quits. I think it's possible for us to achieve an average for the year 2023 on the very last day of December. When we close this thing out, I think it's still possible for us to go sub 14 fatals per month for the year 2023, which will be a world record. What's my goal? Well, my goal is 0, but we're gonna whittle away at this. I want 14, and then we're gonna go for 13. We want 12. We want the general aviation fatal accident to be on a steady decline. We're gonna do that via education, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. We're going to show you how to do all of that. And I want to thank Landon Cohen, for my data analyst, for putting this together. Isn't that information interesting? So here's just an update on Dylan. He's got his Cherokee out flying around, and he's solo, but he's a student pilot. He's on the road over this weekend. He's still not home yet. He left on Friday with his Cherokee. He's been out flying around. He's a student pilot with a stack of sectionals, and I sent him on the road. Here's his goodbye video as I kicked him off the airport on Friday. Here it is.
On the first leg of this trip is going to be 220.
You're correct. The heading are actually going to fly.
That's wind correction angle and magnetic variation.
Okay, so 220 for how many minutes?
For 19 minutes.
19 minutes, okay. And then you're going to stop and top off, and then from there you're going westbound. You stay out of the bad airspace. You stay out of the terrain. You stay up high. You be ready for an engine failure every time. You be ready for a rejected takeoff every time. You stay alive in this airplane out there, and you text me for each leg. I'm going to look at your flight planning, and I will endorse you for the next leg after I'm sure that you know what you're doing, and we'll get you going. Just have the airplane back by Sunday night. After that, you got a stack of sectionals. I don't care where you go. Just don't bend this airplane. Stay out of the weather. Stay out of the trees. You do whatever you need to do to put this thing on the ground. Someplace you got a sleeping bag and a pillow and a jug of water. That's all you need. You're good.
All right. Yep. Sounds good.
Can you do it?
Easy peasy.
So his objective is to build flight time. I sent him out there with a jug of water and a sleeping bag and said, don't come home until Sunday night. I'll be done with my video. You can come home. We'll debrief it. I'm endorsing, as his instructor, I'm endorsing each and every leg as he goes every day via virtual and via electronic. I approve his flight planning. I look at it very closely. I check it out. We talk about it. And then I approve his leg, the next leg that he's going to do. Here's one of the legs that he did going from Alabama down to Florida. He actually ran out of sectionals, so he altered his flight plan to go over this airport and then straight south, which is kind of interesting. But he's doing it with pilotage, dead reckoning. No GPS, no iPad, no phone, no ForeFlight. So if you look at his flight plan in flight via FlightAware 8264 November, you'll see his lines are a little bit wobbly. That's him making his course corrections in flight. And I think it's going to be good. He's going to do a series. Here's his YouTube channel. He's going to start putting footage up there so you can follow along and see. He's going to talk about where he went and the things that he learned and all that kind of thing. Pilotage and dead reckoning. He's got a pencil, an E6B, a sectional, and a stopwatch, and that's how he's navigating. Pure navigation, the old-fashioned way. You're not using a hotel, and you're not using an Uber. You're going out there and stay on the road. He's got an Instagram account. Here it is. I think he's posting some stuff to Instagram, but I don't have Instagram. Isn't that interesting? So we got the DTSB 501c3 works in progress. We got the DTSB Superfund. Here's the GoFundMe for it. Got a lot of haters out there. Some of them are members of the 99s. I'm not sure why. I do a lot for the 99s. I carry these women with me wherever they want to go. I took several of them to Triple Tree with me this year. Here's one, Lynn Kaywood, who's filed a complaint. Lynn Kaywood with the 99s, and here's her Facebook post talking about me and reporting my DTSB Superfund to GoFundMe, which has been ineffective. It didn't work. I'm completely legitimate in what I'm doing. And Lynn Kaywood, I want you to know, I got a lot of people watching all the 99's board members, and whatever you post, we're getting screen grabs of all of that. I recommend that you stay professional and stay out of the area that you're not supposed to be in, and whatever you post is public, and I don't think you ought to be doing that. 99's has better, more productive things to do, and I think 99's is a fine organization. I have worked with them and supported them and helped them many, many times over the years, and I intend to continue to do so. I think you're stooping to lower levels in participating in that, Lynn Kaywood, and I want you to know we're watching. So let's take a look at the data for September of 2023. This concludes the third quarter of 2023. Here it is on your screen. And really the only accidents that we're going to talk about, we already talked about last week, 802 Papa Papa, that's the powered parachute. Turns out that guy was boarding his aircraft, and he sat on the throttle control and it bent it. And therefore it went to wide open and he couldn't close it. It had him in it. He made it most of the way to the crash scene before that thing flung him out across the ramp there. 30709 Mike is a strange one. PA 28161. This is a guy named Tim McKellar Jr., age 22. He penetrated a thunderstorm and he was sending Instagram posts prior to the crash. A lot of you have already seen all this kind of stuff, but it's a very unprofessional conduct on the part of Tim. And further digging, there's a strange story here between Tim and his father. Tim Sr., they were both arrested for drugs and alcohol in a very large underage drinking drug party at their home. Here's the screen grab from that. Being a CFI has some things to do. Being a dad has some responsibility to it. I would not ever consider hosting a party or feeding underage kids drugs and alcohol and that kind of a thing. I think this might be one of those kind of things where the dad wanted to be the cool guy and the cool dad and allow all that kind of stuff, but they both ended up in jail over this underage drinking thing. And then Tim ended up being a CFI at age 22. You got to be careful who you board your airplanes with. Your CFI, just because he has a CFI certificate, does not necessarily mean he's qualified to be instructing your kid. If I was the parents of this kid that he killed doing what he did, I wouldn't be very happy over this, and this McKellar thing is a crazy deal. This is a CFI. Being a CFI is a big deal. You have to be very responsible, very careful. You got to say no most of the time. Believe me, Dylan knows that right now. No, you're not doing that. No, you're not doing that. You're staying day VFR, flatland. You're not going out there. You're not doing that. You're going to fly with plenty of gas. You're going to be trained. You're going to be ready for an engine failure. That's how we're doing it. I think you should take some notes from how not to do it from the McKellar family. This one was truly stunning. Here's the next one. This is the Cozy in Alabama, November 9-5 Sierra Fox. The guy's name is William Smith, 54 years old. I think it was loss of thrust on takeoff. Here's some video image from it. If you want to see it, here's the reporter talking about this one, and here's the scene.
We know that a single engine plane crashed right behind me here. It's actually on this side, I believe. We know the Coleman County coroner confirmed that person that died in the crash, but he says no one else was on board. They don't believe that at this time. And I'm going to show you a close-up of the plane from when I got here just an hour earlier. You can see investigators taking down details of what happened. And we know what's next is a National Transportation Safety Board investigation on what happened. They say they'll document what they see and also check out the plane for any damage, any details that they can gather from that damage, and they'll request radar data, weather information, maintenance records, and the pilot's medical records as well to make that outline of an investigation. And they tell me that they'll begin that investigation tomorrow morning, but they do say that report might not be published until at least.
And then the very last one just happened last night. It happened Saturday night, November 6th, 312 Golf. It's a Cessna 150, New Hampshire. I think this is the same Venice situation. Remember, the two airplanes in Venice, about 6 months apart, took off from Venice, Florida, out over the water. Night VFR, VMC conditions, and yet as soon as they got out over the blackness of that water, they promptly lost control. They didn't lose control of the aircraft. The aircraft was still controllable, but both of them drove it into the water, hit at about the same place. This one here flew in. Here's the flight aware path. This guy flew in. It was not IMC. It was visibility 4 in haze, and it was night. and he flew in, didn't make it to the airport. I think he was going to go around and re-enter the right downwind again. Here's the path that he flew. Here's my artist conception from Google Earth of what I think that he did. I think that he got out over the water, and this airplane did not stall spin. It drove it straight into the water. Its altitude and its speed were increasing right up until impact, and that's all that happened out there. So that concludes our September data. That brings us up to 14 for the month of September, and there they are. I hope that you will stay off of this sheet from now on. The last thing I'm going to do is talk about AOPA. I know you don't want to talk about AOPA, but I'm going to tell you, our country, our pilots, and general aviation needs a strong member-driven organization. Currently, AOPA used to be that for us. I'm not proposing that we get rid of AOPA. I'm proposing we get rid of the fat cats that are living large off of your dues. We got to have the organization, the people, the illegitimate, unethical, conflict of interest people in there making the big money, traveling around, living large, and not protecting your interests as a member. That's what we have to get rid of. We got to keep AOPA. We got to get rid of the individuals at the top that are soaking in all the money. Mark Baker and all his cronies are in it for themselves. I'm going to talk about what happened at Triple Tree. I didn't find out until after the fact here. I've flown lots and lots of airplanes into Triple Tree, vintage airplanes, Beech 18, the Lockheed, the DC-3. I've taken several DC-3s in there at a time. I have never, ever parked where we parked. I flew in there with Glenn and the Lockheed. We parked so far north away from everybody. I couldn't believe it, but here's what happened. We flew into Triple Tree. We parked where they told us to park, and then later on, I ran into somebody who watched Dick McSpadden at the lunch table. When we came in, they said, "Here comes Dan. Do you want to watch him land?" And Dick McSpadden said, "No, I want you to watch where he parks." There's what happened here, and that's how I'm not very happy with Triple Tree. Triple Tree accepted big money from AOPA to put up their tent and bring in their people to AOPA. Here's 2 video clips showing this, and I'm not very happy about any of this. Leaving Triple Tree, I am kind of disgusted for a couple reasons here. I'm going to show this to you. This is more AOPA at work, but look where we're parked here. I've been in here many years in many airplanes. I coordinated my arrival well in advance with Rob Williams, Triple Tree. He knew the Lockheed and the DC-3 were coming. I believe at AOPA's request, they stuck us way out here, way north of the control tower. Not only that, we're on a hill. You talk about I don't demand a upfront parking space, but something flat. There was tons of space south of the control tower. We told them in advance, we're coming in here, we're gonna set up, park, stay. We're not coming in or out. We're done once we get here. And look where they put us, at the direction of AOPA and Rob Williams from Triple Tree, put us out here. Now our airplane is sitting at a slant for 3 days. Our fuel runs to one side. It's hard to walk in the airplane. They put us on this hill. I mean, look at this thing. There's no reason. This is like a 10-degree slope. Look how high my wingtip is over here. Look how low it is over here. Zero consideration. We brought 2 vintage classic airplanes, and we gave free tours in this airplane all day long. Anybody that wants to go in and out for free, answered their questions. We're out here flying airplanes, visiting with pilots, and playing music. This is how Triple Tree is supposed to be. We didn't get treated very good this year at Triple Tree. I hope Pat is paying attention to this. Rob Williams is the guy that did it. I don't know if we'll be back or not. I've not ever received treatment like this for bringing this DC-3 in here before. It's all because of AOPA. They got to have their tent up by the pavilion. Their staff, they're the ones that paid big money, and they're the ones that I'm sure gave the order to put Dan up to the north as far away from everybody as possible, and that's what it is. You make your own decision, but I've never seen this before. Thank you, AOPA. Well, here's the thing at Triple Tree. Great weekend. A lot of people here, a lot of airplanes, and AOPA is here. They got their big tent here. I'm gonna show it to you. They pay big money to rent this space, come over here and occupy this space. It's the blue tent with the blue shirts. There they are. We call it the Bud Light tent. There's nobody here. AOPA thinks that their idea is to have all their people sitting inside the blue tent and pilots come to them. They never thought about going outside and visiting with pilots, hanging out. This tent closes at 5 p.m. They slam the door shut and they go to their hotel. AOPA is renting this spot, bringing all these people on staff, never thought about interacting with pilots. They expect pilots to come to their tent and watch their big screen TV. I disagree. We shouldn't be spending that kind of money to bring this kind of setup, this kind of salary to a place like Triple Tree and set up a vendor tent. It's just wrong. It's completely wrong. And obviously it's wrong. This is a ghost tent. There's been nobody at this tent all week.
So there you have it. I'm going to play the rest of the Vietnam veteran interview. You know, we spent most of our time flying airplanes, swimming in the river, entertaining with people, playing music at night. We played both Friday and Saturday night. I made more friends, as we always do, playing music, interacting with everybody, and talking about airplanes and things like that at Triple Tree. I think Triple Tree is a fantastic venue. I think Pat has let this thing lapse into a money-grubbing thing. He's turned Rob Williams into the act of generating the most amount of money, and they took a big paycheck from AOPA. I think it's the wrong direction. Next year, at the same time, we're going to do our convention in Hampton, Georgia. At the same time that Triple Tree is going on, we're just going to do our convention in Hampton, Georgia. Our AQP convention is going to be a fly-in. It's ride hopping, it's music, it's an AQP convention. We're going to have it at Hampton, Georgia, KHMP, the same weekend as Triple Tree next year. Now you get your choice. You can either go to Pat's at Triple Tree, or you can come over to ours. And we have fuel available, we have hotels, we have everything, we have live music. We're going to have it all at Hampton, Georgia next fall. And I think it's time to offer people a choice of where to go in the fall. We got a long runway. You can camp on the field. You can do the whole thing. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Here's the interview one of the most valuable interviews I caught concerning the whole D.B. Cooper Vietnam veteran thing. Here's the rest of that interview that I opened up this video segment with.
That's why D.B. Cooper, when he hijacked the airplane, the flight attendant asked him, said, "Do you have a grudge against our airlines?" And he said, "No, I have a grudge." So my problem with the Vietnam was, you're the one sect of veterans that came back that were not appreciated.
Well, I'm glad to see that some of the later veterans were appreciated from Desert Storm, other conflicts.
Yeah,
I was glad to see that they were treated better.
You were the guy that got shot at equally, went over there under those conditions, flew the missions, did everything that was asked of you, and you come back and you get treated like that. None of those guys coming back got the reception that they deserved. So, anyway, I appreciate your service.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to close this video off with the segment, the music segment that somebody sent to me. I want you to remember to try to contribute towards either the DTSB Super Fund or $1 or $2 towards Dan's travel. Here they are: Zelle, PayPal, Cash App, Venmo. $1 or $2 is perfectly appropriate. If you can't do it, that's totally cool as well. Here's how Triple Tree ended up on Saturday night for us. I want you to watch this, and I'm going to get out of here and get this video up and on the air. From a tiny little itty-bitty fledgling YouTube channel, Dan Ryder, Probable Cause.
Well, some that morning when the light is on, I'm my way to the home on God's blessed shore. I'm my way. Well, I'm my way over it. I'm my way. When I die, hallelujah, I'm Oh, just a few more river days to live. I'll fly away to a land where joys will never end. I'll fly away. Well, I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by. I'll fly away. Just our voices. I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah,